الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلوات وأتم التسليم على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين ورحمة الله وبركاته. Following up with what we were discussing last night about the importance of elevating our understanding of the status of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, and in particular things to do with Sha'air al-Husayniyya, or the rituals related to Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and knowing that these kind of things are going to contribute in a very positive way to our overall conduct and also as far as our ideological structure is concerned. There's a beautiful segment from a piece of advice that Imam Ali alayhi salam gave to his children, Imam Hassan and Mujtaba in particular, where he says, إنما قلب الحدث كالأرض الخالية. The heart of a young person, the heart of a teenager, young adult, is like barren land, is like empty land, is like a fertile land, nothing planted in it. ما ألقي فيها من شيء قبلته. Anything that you put into this land, the land is going to accept. Whatever you want to plant there in this fertile, barren, untouched land, it's going to, of course, accept, and it's going to be, of course, growing. It's going to grow. So then Imam Ali alayhi salam, he says, فبادرتك بالأدب قبل أن يقسو قلبك ويشتغل لبك. So I was quick in managing, in disciplining you before your heart gets hard. We know about qaswatul qalb and about hardening of the heart. We know about our minds getting preoccupied with useless things as well. And this is why, as the very famous saying goes, العلم في الصغار كالنقش في الحجر. You learning from a young age is like carving on a rock. And the older you get, the more difficult it is for you to absorb the information that is around you. Now, this sponge that you have, your heart, your mind, if you put good stuff in it, it's going to absorb the good stuff. If you put bad stuff in it, it's going to absorb the bad stuff. And so therefore, when it comes to that age of ours and how young we are and how we need to seize the opportunity in making sure that we do things in the right way before a time will come where we will have such a hard heart, it will be of no use. Why is it that having a soft heart is so important? Because qaswatul qalb means that a person is going to be susceptible to sin, to disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to being cruel, to not having any kind of emotions or feelings towards those who are around them. And this is why Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, he said, فَبَادَرْتُكَ بِالْأَدَبِ. So I quickly made sure that I was focusing on concentrating on discipline. Discipline is extremely important. Discipline that comes from parents, discipline that comes from teachers, discipline that comes from elders. What's the biggest problem that we have in today's society? People are too much spoiled. People unfortunately, feel that they are too privileged. And this is a major issue that we can see in today's society, that level of privilege that people have. The worries and concerns of first world countries, oh, the Wi-Fi is not working, and it's only been 20 minutes and there's some kind of network problem. Qiyamah! Just because of something as simple as loss of, for example, Wi-Fi, or because their pancake wasn't cooked on both sides equally, or these kind of very meaningless petty things. And then you go to other places, it's a matter of life and death, a struggle on a daily basis. Just imagine you were living somewhere like now in Afghanistan, or in Iraq, or Syria, or Palestine, or Lebanon, or in many of these places in Central Africa. Issues that they are struggling with are real, genuine issues. If we don't have that level of discipline, if we don't discipline ourselves, if we don't undergo that level of discipline, if we don't try to discipline others, of course in a positive way, you don't have any right to just discipline any random person, but always be there for advice, for maw'idha, for nasiha. Do you know what nasiha means? It means wishing well for other people. You want good for someone else. حُبْ لِأَخِيكَ كَمَا تُحِبُّ لِنَفْسِكَ. You want the best for those who are around you, the same as you want the best for yourself. And that's why a bakhil person, a stingy person, is going to be someone who doesn't advise other people. Unfortunately, in this day and age, giving nasiha and advising people could fall you in problems as well. Because all of a sudden, because of this individualized world that we live in, everyone lives in their own bubble. Everyone has their own password for their phone. Everyone on their bedroom door says don't enter. Everyone somehow feels that they are independent, they are mustaqil, they drive their own car, they have their own income, and therefore even the parent doesn't have that level of authority as there was in the olden days. We're not talking about abuse, we're not talking about tyranny, we're not talking about any kind of humiliation of those who are around us. We're talking about simple matters of reverence, of respecting authority, of abiding by the principles of our religion. Something as simple as respecting of parents. Which is the most common complaint that we get. There in some cases, it's not just a matter of a son or a daughter answering back to their parent. No, it's in this day and age, it's worse than that. It's swearing at the parents. It's violence. It's hitting the parents. And what can the parent do? Once something like that happens, the parent has one of two options: either stay quiet and keep their son or daughter at home, or retaliate, or say something back and then lose their son or daughter. Their daughter or their son will run away, and that's it with them. Who do you think you are? Why are you don't tell me what to do? I'm my own person. And all these other things that happen. And sometimes, that's why Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says, someone who's aaq, someone who is disobedient to their parent, فَلْيَفْعَلْ مَا يَفْعَلْ. Do what you want to do. Whatever ibadah, whatever this, whatever that. Do what you want to do, but you will never smell the scent of heaven. Why do we say that looking at the face of your parent is, the hadith says, looking at the face of your parent is an act of ibadah, act of worship. And I've mentioned this here in the Musalla numerous times. Al-nazaru ila al-Quran ibadah. Looking at the Quran is ibadah, even if you're not reciting. Al-nazaru ila al-Kaaba ibadah. Looking at the holy Kaaba is itself an act of ibadah. Al-nazaru ila wajhi al-alim ibadah. Looking at the face of a alim is ibadah. And mashallah, when you look at these ulama that we have, alhamdulillah, the ni'mah, the biggest ni'mah that we have, the ni'mah of wilayah of Amir al-Mu'mineen. You can see Nur Amir al-Mu'mineen in the face of our ulama. You can't ishba'. We can't get full from looking at the beautiful illuminated faces of our ulama. Compare that to Ibn Uthaymeen and all these others. All of them are either they're all either one-eyed, or they blabber when they talk, or all of these other things. You don't even find any kind of pleasure listening to them, let alone looking at them. But then you see the nur of, for example, Sayyid Mar'ash al-Najafi and others and others. Where's that come from? And that's why when you look at alim, why is it an act of ibadah? Because it reminds you of your obligations that you need to do, these righteous ulama. Another is looking at the face of your parents. Why? Because looking at the face of your parents is a form of you showing, expressing your compassionate sides. It's a way of you showing your submission as well, in your obedience, in your ta'ah, in your birr to your walidain, to your parents. We need to always remember that. And that's what we mean by adab. And that's what we mean by discipline. So when we talk about privilege, when we talk about being spoilt, when we talk about us ourselves, putting ourselves in difficulties, in hardships, so we can roughen ourselves up. So when the time comes, when there is a difficulty, we know how to deal with it. We know what to do. We don't chicken away because we've prepared ourselves for that kind of situation. Look at your parents, look at your grandparents. Ask them about the difficulties that they went through, whether they were refugees or whether they were living in a war-torn environment, or whether they lost a family member, or whether someone in their family was killed, or whether they went to prison during the Ba'athist regime, or during the for example, Taliban regime, and all these other scenarios and situations that we frequently hear of from first-hand witnesses who are still alive. And then ask yourself this: if you were in this same situation, what would you do? What would you do? And so if you don't tolerate this situation or that scenario and things like that, it's never going to be the case where you are going to be able to nurture yourself in the best way. And فاقد الشيء لا يعطي. If you aren't able to do something, what are you going to give to your child? If you don't have any level of tahammul and tolerance, and you don't have any level of discipline, how are you going to discipline your child? If you're nagging and complaining about, what did I say, pancake not being cooked on both sides equally, what's your son or your daughter going to be thinking about or complaining or nagging about? How are you going to control that? And this is why when we return back to Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, the one thing that they stress on is ma'rifah. Ma'rifah. Ma'rifah means recognition. It doesn't mean ilm. Yeah, you could know Imam Hussein was born on the 3rd of Sha'ban, and he was this, and he was this years old when he was martyred, and this is what happened in Karbala. Okay. Even someone who isn't a follower of Imam Hussein could even know this information, could even write a well-researched, well-documented book and of the highest level as well. But without ma'rifah, what value does that have? And that's why ma'rifah is very important, recognition. And this is why when it comes to the ziyarah of A'immatu Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, something that we always see frequently as a theme is that if you do ziyarah of, for example, the ma'soom arifan bihaqqihi, that you recognize their haqq, their status, their due rights, then of course, for example, one of the rewards would be wajabat lahul jannah. Jannah will become obligatory for you to enter, inshaAllah. And this is why even in the case of Imam Hussein, do you not remember when last night and the night before we spoke about participating in the masa'ib, in the aza of Imam Hussein, because that in itself will bring about our own salvation. And buka ala Imam Hussein. What does the hadith say? One of many ahadith from Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam says that if you shed a tear, even if its size is that of a wing, is the size of a wing of an insect, it would be wajib for you to enter into heaven. So that level, وَلَوْ بِجُنَاحِ بَعُوضَةٍ وَجَبَتْ لَهُ الْجَنَّةِ. Subhanallah. What effect does buka ala al-Husayn alayhi salam have for it to carry that much merit? This is where ma'rifah and recognition falls into place. This is where when you're weeping, you are activating everything related to Imam Hussein within you. This is when you will embody adala. This is when you will embody rejection of dhulm and all of the other things that come along with the madrasa of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And that's why in the few points that we are able to share in our last session for the initial ayam days of Muharram, we've mentioned sacrifice a few times, but we'll need to mention it again. Sacrifice yourself for the truth at any cost. Always make sure that you stand with the haqq. You know, there's this statement that is un-Islamic. Islam rejects that kind of statement. Unsur akhaka zaliman aw mazluma. Support your comrade, whether they are the oppressor or the oppressed. As Muslims, do we accept such a statement? Absolutely not. If your friend, if your brethren, if your, what did I say, comrade is a zalim, you reject that and you condemn that. Your friend, for example, wronged someone else, and that other person could even be your enemy, or could be some random person walking down the street. You don't defend your friend. No. You condemn your friend and you say, no brother, no sister, you shouldn't have done that. Isn't that one application for al-amr bil ma'ruf wa nahy an al-munkar that we always speak about, which was one of the fundamental objectives that Imam Hussein alayhi salam had? Sacrifice for the truth, even if it comes to your disadvantage. وَيُؤْثِرُونَ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ وَلَوْ كَانَ بِهِمْ خَصَاصَةٌ. This is what ithar means. We spoke about ithar and being selfless, even at the cost of you losing something. That's what sacrifice is. Number 2, sabr. sabr, sabr, sabr. We always hear this word, don't we? Be patient, be patient, be patient. Persevere, tolerate. What does it mean? Of course, when we look at sabr and patience, and when we hear things like Inna Allaha ma'a sabirin, fabashir as-sabirin, and all these different instances where the Quran speaks about patience and sabr and how we need to be patient. In what case are we going to need to be patient? Of course, we know that it's going to be for the sake of something greater, for the sake of something more important, for the greater good. Number one, sabr fi ta'atillah. Sabr in obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You need to be patient. You need to tolerate. Why? Because you're not going to have immediate, instant effect for what it is that you're doing. When we say how effective salah is, that salah will keep you away and salah will keep you on the sirat al-mustaqim, you think like straight away, all of a sudden, I'm going to pray 2 rak'ahs, I'm going to khalas them quickly, and I'm going to get instant results? No. Oh, Ya Allah, please cure me from my sickness. You think, oh, straight away Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, everything is going to go away. Ya Allah, give me tawfiq to get this job. Straight away God said, and He said, okay, straight away it's going to happen. No. You could probably be doing something in ta'atillah, in obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and see its effect maybe sometimes immediately. Sometimes after 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, 60 years maybe. Sometimes you won't see the effect in this dunya, you will see in the akhirah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, look, I know you're asking for this, I know you're asking for a child, but I have other plans for you. I have greater plans for you. What would you want? What would you prefer? What you decide or what I decide? Of course, we're going to say, if we are truly obedient to God, we're going to say, Ya Allah, you decide, and I will accept what you decide. Because God is saying, I have greater plans for you. And we usually say, oh, I want to be a millionaire. Ya Allah, please, please, I want to be a millionaire. I want to be rich. I want to be rich. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, no, it's not going to happen. Doesn't matter how many times you ask, it's not going to happen. Why? Because there's something else that God is looking for in you. And that's one quick explanation of what sabr fi ta'atillah means. How about sabr fi ma'siyatillah? Sabr, having patience against, or having patience in refraining from disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Something that is very tempting, something that is dragging you towards it, attracting you towards it. What are you going to do? Give in or be patient? That's what sabr fi ma'siyatillah, patience, having patience towards that which you need to observe to avoid disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the third is sabr alal musibah, patience in face of a calamity. When you're stricken with a difficulty, with a calamity, with something misfortunate happening to you, are you going to be patient? Are you going to be thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? As we said, فَبَشِّرَ الصَّابِرِينَ الَّذِينَ إِذَا أَصَابَتْهُمْ مُصِيبَةٌ قَالُوا إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. That's what it means here. بَشِّرَ الصَّابِرِينَ. Give glad tidings to the patient who, when they are faced with a misfortunate event, they say, إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ raji'un. What kind of misfortune could it be? Variety of things. Whatever it may be, you're always going to be patient. And we can see all of these things in the message of Imam Hussein and the event of Karbala. Iqamatul Salah, al-hifadh ala Salah, preserving and honoring Salah, respecting Salah. Don't rotate your Salah around your day. Rotate your day and plan the routine of your day based on Salah. You know that 6 a.m. you're going to leave the house. You know that 12 p.m. you're going to need to be in the state of tahara so you can pray. So you plan everything. I know that, for example, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. This is going to happen, that's going to happen. I might get najis, I might lose my wudu. I have my plan. I have another spare pair of clothes. I have this. So the routine that you have in planning out your day is based on your salah. You don't fit in salah into the empty slots of your day, and if you don't have any empty slots, then you delay your prayer. No, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will deprive you of any barakah that you might have for that day. Preserving salah, honoring salah, giving salah the highest level of value. And that's why the Holy Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, he says, salah is qurratu aini. It's the pleasure in my eyes. Salah. It's the most satisfying thing that can be done. Salah. Lil-asaf, unfortunately, some people, when they deal with salah, with prayer, it's like holding a large, heavy sack of potatoes on their back. They just want to get rid of it. يتخلصون من عنده, to carry on with their day. Then they're going to complain and say, oh, I don't really feel any connection with when I pray. Of course you don't, because you're not prioritizing your salah and your prayer. That itself is going to, when you prioritize prayer, that itself is going to give you that boost that you need. And so this is why when we plan out the day for our prayer and to make sure that prayer is prioritized, of course, we're going to feel and sense that satisfaction in what it is that we are achieving and accomplishing. Imam Hussein alayhi salam, we all know the story. Even on Ashura day, Laylat Ashura, what did he finish off the whole night doing, him and his companions? Doing ibadah and praying. On Ashura day, at noontime, they did adhan and they did salah. Yes, there were some of the ashab that stood there as barriers to protect from the raining of arrows against Imam Hussein from the enemy's army while they were praying. They didn't even honor the time of prayer. They kept on attacking, and some shuhada fell in defending Imam Hussein alayhi salam in order for him and the others to finish off their salah. There's no exemption for salah, whatever the case may be. Sayyidah Zainab, salamullahi alayha, that jabal of sabr, that mountain of patience, on Laylatul Hadi Ashar, the night, the evening after the tragedy of Karbala, she didn't cancel or avoid praying her Salatul Layl, but because of how difficult it was in her situation, she prayed it sitting down. So it's not only a matter of the wajib salah, even the nawafil. If you're able to add nawafil and do nawafil, try to do so. Add one, then add a second one, then add a third one, and then that's when you'll really feel the halawa, the sweetness of ibadah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number 4 is nothing is more valuable than your honor. Imam Hussein alayhi salam, in that piece of poetry that he said, تَرَكْتُ الْأَرْضَ طُرًّا fi hawaka. Ya Allah, I've abandoned, I've left everything for your sake. The children even became, and family members even became aitam. وَأَيْتَمْتُ الْعِيَالَ كَيْ أَرَاكَ. They became orphans only for the sake of me wanting to see you, Ya Allah. فَلَوْ قَطَّعُونِي إِرَبًا لَمَا زَالَ الْفُؤَادُ عَنْ سِوَاكَ. And if they were to cut me up into pieces, فَلَوْ قَطَّعَتْنِي فِي الْحُبِّ إِرَبًا لَمَا مَالَ الْفُؤَادُ إِلَى سِوَاكَ. That my heart will not turn away from anything or anyone other than you. Who is your role model? Who is your example in life? What kind of lifestyle do you have? If Imam Hussein was here with us today, would he be proud of you? If Sayyidah Zainab alayha salam was here with us today, would she be proud of you in what it is that you are doing? And this is why we always need to remember this, preparing ourselves, doing all of these things that I mentioned. Amr bil ma'roof wa nahi an al munkar, staying away from dhulm, always defending the haqq, always making sure that we are a part of the solution and never a part of the problem, always making sure that justice is our priority in life, always remembering to be the voice of the oppressed, being courageous, having bravery, standing up for what is right, sacrificing for the sake of a greater good, leadership skills, that when we go, we take others with us, that we advise others, that we encourage others, that we educate others, and all of this with tawakkul, relying on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Taslim, submitting to God. Isn't that what Islam means? That we submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the message of Karbala. This is what we are able to learn as graduates from the madrasa of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the tawfiq of ma'rifah, of recognizing Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam in this dunya, and for us to do ziyarah of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam in this dunya, especially the ziyarah of Imam Hussein salamullahi alayh, especially the ziyarah of al-arba'in of Imam Hussein. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq of continuing to serve for the cause of Imam Hussein, to always allow us to shed tears sincerely in weeping, in mourning for Imam Hussein, and also for us to receive the shafa'ah of Imam Hussein in al-akhirah at a time where we will need it most. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وآله الطاهرين.